Hey friends, welcome to this video. Now, I was recently approached with a question which is how can I add a total bar to my bar chart? So let's say you have created your chart here with your specific DAX calculation. In my case, it is the average selling price per category, which I have in my dataset. I just want to mention the approach I'm going to share with you can be applied to any kind of label you have on your x-axis. So it could be the categories like I have here, but also could be, for instance, the months you have in the dataset or any other kind of, thing you want to slice your data by. And also can apply to any measure. In my case, it's the average selling price, but maybe for you it's different. Could be total sales or whatever you want. But the main goal is to add next to the average selling price, which we have here for each of the categories, also one additional bar, which shows the total. So the average selling price across all the categories. That's what we would like to do. Now, some Power BI visualizations, especially maybe some you can add from App Source, if you click on the three dots, might also include a total bar, but the default chart in Power BI currently does not. But how can we add this? Nonetheless, let's explore that. At first, let's have a quick look at the measure for the average selling price. It's kind of easy here, but let me show it to you just in case you're wondering. It's just an average X over the orders table, and then I'm showing the selling price for the orders. And you might also want to maybe group this first using summarize, for instance, for each order ID, anything like that. But for now, that's not the main point of this video. So how can we now add the total here? Well, the trick simply is that we need to create a table which contains a unique list of our, in this case, for me, the categories, as well as one additional entry, which is total. So that's what we need. So we need this table. How can we create this table? Well, there are various options. Of course, we could do it, for instance, in Excel or any other kind of tool, and then simply import this table. That could be an option. But we could also do it directly in Power BI using DAX. Because remember, if you go to modeling here, you have the option not only to create measures, but also to create tables with DAX expressions. And that's what I'm going to do here. And let me show you how that works. This one here, as you can see with the little calculator icon, is a DAX table, which was created by me. It's called categories with total. And that's the formula, what it looks like. So what I basically do here is I'm gonna use a union, and the union function allows us to combine two tables. So simply concatenate them below each other. And the first table here is I'm using the summarize function, but you could also try out a different function like values, for instance, or anything like that. But what I do here is I use summarize, and I summarize my orders by the category, which should give me simply a list of categories. And then I also use here an additional function, which is the data table. The data table itself is kind of interesting because it allows you to create a new table. And what you do is you specify at first in here, as you can see here, the name. So in this case, it's called category. Then what kind of data type this table has. In this case, it is a string because it's text value. And then the specific value itself, which is in my case total. And you need to make sure that you have the curly braces here. And that's how that works. So what it basically does is with the union here, we first have a unique list of categories from the orders table, which is called categories. That is why for the union, the second table I also called category. And I simply add one specific entry in this table, which is of data type string, and the value itself is total. And then I also wrapped it in a distinct, but maybe that's not necessary, especially if you do not have any duplicates. But nonetheless, I did that. And let me show you the result of this. So if I close this now and go to the data view in here, this is where you can actually see what the result looks like. So it's a unique table, which is called category. And it has a unique list of the categories. And especially take a look at this one here. Unfortunately, right now I can't zoom in, but if you do it yourself, you'll see that there's one additional entry, which is total. And that's exactly what we get by creating this function here. So this DAX calculation, which returns a table. So that's the first thing we need. So now we have our category table, including the total. So that means that instead of using the default category from my orders table here, I can now add in here another visualization type, which is in this case coming from the categories with total. So I can select this category now and also choose a bar chart like that. Okay, here we go. And of course, we also need some kind of entries here, right? And what we can't use, of course, is right now the average selling price, because if I would use this one here, I'd see there is no total, right? Because the total here is not included, or the selling price is not there for the total. So what we need instead is we need to modify this measure a little bit, and that's what I did here. And let me show you the result. So I'm using variables here because what I do is I simply add this additional total here. And I say the var is total, and this is just the average selling price, but across all categories with total. So that means that I'm removing the filter, which I have on the x-axis. So I'm sure that I include all the categories. That's what I'm using the calculate here because I need to modify the filter context, and that's what I do with the all function here. And then I simply use a switch statement and take a look at the selected value of the categories total, which is simply each value in our x-axis. And if the value is total, then I like to show the value across all categories, so this up there. Otherwise, I'm using my default measure, which is the average selling price. That's all what we do here. So you don't have to use the variable if you don't like to, but I think it's quite cleaner writing DAX this way, so that's why I chose to do it this way. And after this, let me just close this here, make it smaller again. And if we put this in a visualization, let's do that. Let's put this inside. Now we see we got one new bar, which is here, which is the total bar. Hope you can see it. Maybe it's a little too small, but let me just check that here. If I go to the x-axis here and I would make the bold or maybe a little bit bigger as well, you should hopefully see that there's a total in here, right? So that may be a little bit too big, or make it bigger like that. So, and the only thing which might disturb a little bit is that the total is currently in the middle. I get that, but let's take a look at the sorting options here. And actually, by default, because the total is at the end, we should be able to sort it here, not by average selling price, but let's choose the category here. And now we can see that the total is at the beginning. And this is because by default it's sorted descending here. But if I go to sort axis now and click on sort ascending like that, then we see that now the total is the last value in here, the bar. And of course you can now play around with the color if you want to do that. Let me also maybe go here and also add the labels because currently they're not there. So if I go to data labels, I can turn them on and I would see the values here as well for the average selling price. And that's basically it. So this is one way how we can add a total bar in the default chart visualization if this is required. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful to you. And thanks a lot for watching. Also for your feedback so far. I really appreciate it. Take care and hopefully see you then next time. Best regards.